What is going on? I want to welcome you from F-Core for today, Tuesday, September 27th, 2022. I am your host, Sean Murphy, alongside my co-pilot, my main squeeze, my boy, Jeff Iafredi. Jeff, my boy, good to see you as always.
I'm feeling good, man. It's the start of something very good for Pistons
It's going to
fans and for
be
us.
the start
It's
of something.
okay. Hold up.
Let's say High
I'm very
School Musical.
excited.
Let's say High School Musical,
I
man.
really don't be dropping bangers in here, Sean. Don't get me excited. I mean, it's late at night. Don't get me all excited. Listen,
Yeah.
I'm excited though. I mean, listen, we're gonna have tons of stuff to talk about this season. I know people. We've been doing a good job. We've been staying consistent in the off season, but just imagine the content we're gonna have in the regular season. So I can't wait. A lot of storylines coming up.
Dude, it's nice to not have to scramble to figure out what to talk about, because it's like all summer long it's like figuring out what aspect of the conversation to go over again. But
Right.
now there's new conversations to be had because Jeff, there's some mother news happening. And today we had a nugget dropped by the Pistons PR right before the press conference, and it had some pretty significant news in it. From the Pistons PR directly, the Detroit Pistons announced today that the team has exercised its fourth-year team option on the contracts of Saddiq Bey, Killian Hayes, and Isaiah Stewart for the 2023-2024 season. Detroit also exercised its third-year option on the contract of Cade Cunningham for 2023-2024. Breaking news, Cade's going to be a Piston next year. What a shocker. Woj bomb, right? But Jeff, the Pistons picked up not only Saddiq, not only Isaiah Stewart, but they picked up Killian as well. Jeff, when you first saw that news today, what was your reaction? And now that you've had some time to stew on it, and now that you heard what happened at media day, what are your thoughts?
Well, I will just say for the other three, not really surprised, and I think you would agree with me. The one that stood out was Killian Hayes, and I think that just shows how much faith not only Troy but Dwayne, these guys have in Killian. And we could talk about Killian and what we expect, but for Killian, he's in a position now, really the best position he's been in since he's been in Detroit. Now his third season, arguably not. I mean, really not arguable. I think the most talent he's had around him, and if he comes off the bench, same thing. Most talent he's had on the bench. So he has everything in his right to succeed. I think that it just shows like picking up his team option. You have faith in him now. If he doesn't perform well, and we know how much of Troy likes to be aggressive and getting deals done, I think there's still a possible scenario. And I'm not trying to be the bearer of bad news that Killian could still get traded. But that doesn't mean he won't have a chance to show that he has a future in Detroit. He's going to have every opportunity this season to do so. And I have confidence in Killian, but at the end of the day, it's show me. He has to go out and not show me necessarily, but show the Pistons, show the organization why he deserves to have a spot in the future with this team and what his role is going to be moving forward. But it just shows overall, Sean, that they have faith in Killian, and rightfully so.
Yeah. Well, I think in addition to it gives him, we were talking all summer about how this was a make or break year for Killian on the Pistons. And like you said, there's still a chance it could be. There's still a chance that the Pistons could, after this next year, they could potentially trade him beyond then. And, he could be somewhere else next year and it's like an expiring contract, right? But at the same time, it feels important, or it feels significant that they made this known before media day that hey, Killian is part of this. Like, we're not just picking up it was important that it was a press release that had these four names in it, right? It's Cade, it's Saddiq, it's Beef Stew, and it's still Killian being put in that tier, being put in that level of significance. And the Pistons, if they wanted to, they could have made it a prove it year for Killian. They could have potentially, not exercised that option on him the next year. Mm-hmm. But again, the fact that they're giving him the runway of saying, hey, that option's picked up. We still very much believe in Killian Hayes.
Right.
And the fact that, again, he was talking today about being a leader on the defensive end and expanding upon his role this next year, even though he might be getting, in theory, less minutes by being a bench player. So to me, like, it's one of those things where it's like it's not like super shocking in the grand scheme of things, but it's something that just has to bring that next level of confidence to Killian that I'm here and I'm
Right.
still here, right?
Mhm. And I think that also speak to imagine the questions that Killian would be getting if he didn't have that option picked up. He'd have to go to media day and get the questions from the media,
Mhm.
so it saves him. It's a narrative that we've been talking about this whole offseason with Killian and how big of a year it is, and it still is a big year for him. But it just shows like what he said today, specifically on top of what you said. But the quote he mentioned about wanting to embrace the role and like you said, be a leader, especially on defense, because we know he's really our best perimeter defender, you could argue. That's what you want to see out of Killian. It's being more vocal because you brought up a great point when we were chopping it up earlier about like last year. You didn't really hear much of Killian. I think that speaks to getting more comfortable. Obviously, he got through his second year, but just gaining more confidence. And that was the biggest question for me. I've always tried to challenge Killian in any content we make about Killian. It's about what he brings mentally, being mentally strong, and he's proven that as he gets older. So for Killian, he's valuable. I mean, for people to really sit here and say, and I listen, I'm not trying to call anybody out on Pistons Twitter, but to give Killian, this bust title already, I just think it's too premature for a guy that necessarily was in a role I don't think was best fit for him. I think this role this year coming off the bench, I personally think he's going to thrive in it. Now, define what you think of thrive. For me, it ain't like everyone else would be expecting out of Killian. You just have to
Right.
give me something, and I think he's in a position to do that this year with the talent he has around him.
I do know one thing for sure, Jeff. When I'm going to be looking at what Killian's going to be doing this year, I'm not going to judge any of that based on who was and wasn't at a birthday party. That's all I'm going to say. But that's a
Yeah,
whole
good
other
good point.
conversation for a
Good
whole
point.
other time. But with Killian, specifically, I think for him, like you said, it's about show me. It's about that confidence. It's about that belief in himself. But I think, one of the things that he saw at media day was he acknowledged every single thing that we said. Like, he talked about how he needed to work on his jump shot, how
Mhm.
he needed to focus on playing pickup basketball. He needed to focus on just playing and focus on just being confident in his decisions and being confident in taking shots and being confident in his jumper as a whole. Like those were things that were a focus for him this summer. And again, we talked about the physicality and how Cade's gained muscle this summer. Killian somehow looks like he's gotten even bigger, which
And
is
that's
insane.
and for how big he is already, 6'5". I mean, you're talking about gaining, and I feel like that's a consistent thing with everybody. A lot of different players. Cade is getting stronger. You see Sadiq Bey's been working on what he looks like physically because he's already a toned guy, but these guys are in the gym. And I think Killian fits that mold. I mean, we've been seeing this whole offseason how hard he's been working. And listen, now that has to translate to the court, obviously, because I was one of the guys watching him in summer league where I'm sitting there and I'm like, what Killian are we getting? And I'm much more now willing to accept who Killian is and who I think he will be, rather than a year ago where some of those expectations are still lingering of what can Killian become. People were talking about him being the sixth man, and could he be the sixth man for the Pistons? Could he be most improved? Like that stuff we have to chill on. I think my expectations for Killian are very fair, and I think for Killian's sake, he has this aura around him. He walks with this I don't know the right word for it, like the confidence, I think is the right way really to describe it.
Yeah.
And that comes with just getting more experience, going into your third season now and really being one of the older players among the young core. Like he has been here
The
really the
longest
longest
tenured
tenure.
Piston.
Yeah, the longest tenured Piston, and what he had when he first arrived and the expectations, a team that was ready to win now, and now what they have, it's like, listen, patience, we're learning the right way and how to do this. He's embracing it to the fullest extent, and you got to love it.
Yeah, for sure. And when listening to the fact that Troy Weaver and Dwayne Casey even said themselves, we're going to stick with our guys. We like who we have in house. Like a lot of times I think we tend to look at the results and make judgments based off of what we see, right?
Right.
From not only from a fan perspective, but even from an analyst perspective. A lot of times we have to take what we're given. But I think one thing that was revealing, and this wasn't even said directly about Killian, but this was just said about the approach of the last couple of years. Troy Weaver was transparent. These last 2 years was about breaking things down to the studs. Was
Mhm.
about getting us into a situation where we can accrue talent, where we can get to a point where we can be competitive again. But it was about breaking things down so that we could build back up. And I think Killian was just one of those, for all intents and purposes, he talked about how the first 2 years was not how he expected them to go, both personally and I'm sure as a team as well. I think one of those things is just like the reality is our expectations for Killian were one thing. But if you listen to Troy Weaver from the beginning with Killian, it's been about preaching patience. It's
Right.
been about the fact that he's going to struggle to start. And so maybe for Troy and for Coach Casey, for those guys, maybe this was a little bit more along the lines of what they expected.
Mm-hmm.
And so
And that's
maybe, and I think part of that could just be setting up again. I really, after listening to Killian in media day and listening to everyone, about how often like these guys were meeting up to play weekly from what it sounds like. So the chemistry being built, the full true like actual off season for him to play in the summer league, to actually have that ability to like, play, not have any restrictions, play in pickups, go to France, play with the national team. This is a summer that I think we could be looking at and going, man, what a summer for Killian Hayes.
Yeah, and a lot of that starts with just simply others having belief in you, unlike Marvin Bagley in Sacramento. Like something that Killian has right now is you can't argue. That's why, we could talk about what's transpired on Twitter over the last week, but with Killian, you can't deny that everybody in that locker room and in the front office, Coach Casey, like you alluded to, they support him and they believe in him. And he's going to get the opportunities this year, even though Dwayne said that you want guys to be able to compete. Whoever plays well is going to play. And that's also a great thing for Killian because it's like, God, you're not just getting playtime because you're Killian Hayes. You're playing because of what you bring to this team. And that's a common theme with everybody. That's a common theme with what Troy's been building from the top to the bottom with what the culture is. So for me, I love it. I love that the best man's always going to play. It doesn't matter who you are. And for Killian, this is an environment for him to thrive in, or at least he should thrive in. We'll see. I mean, the season's right around the corner. But it's the perfect situation for Killian Hayes. I mean, to have the support he has and to be with guys that are in similar age, like it's different walking into a team that's mostly veterans that have different expectations. Like, who's this guy? This is who you drafted at seventh overall. But now it's different when you have the alphas. You have the Cade, the Jaden, the Sadiq, the Isaiah Stewart, and now Killian's just a part of that. And it's more of a collective thing rather than, he's almost singled out, besides Sadiq and Isaiah Stewart.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, man, the thing I'm most excited to see, and we alluded to it a little bit, where he talked about how he wanted to be a vocal leader on the defensive end.
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited to see what Killian Hayes in more of a leadership role looks like. What Killian Hayes with more of an assertive role, both on the court with the ball in his hands, but in the locker room and with his teammates. And I think that's just something that, I'm incredibly excited for. I think, the team has talked about the importance of this 3-guard lineup and how much they are excited for it. I just think this move just shows they are like this. Like we keep looking at this as the Cade Ivey backcourt, but that's just a piece of the puzzle. This is the whole other part of the equation. If this 3-guard lineup is what the Pistons think it could be, this could be one of the more dangerous combinations of guards in the league.
Mm-hmm. And that's the benefit of having versatility. Like this is what we love about the roster they're currently constructing because you have guys that you can move all around, and even the acquiring of Bojan Bogdanovic, a guy who can play both forward positions. With Sadiq now, you hear the talk him possibly playing the 4, like Isaiah Stewart playing the 4, like pretty much guys are interchangeable. And with that 3-guard lineups, Cade Cunningham and the muscle he's added, 15 pounds, standing at 6'6", 6'7", he's a guy who could play the 3 for you. I really do believe that with his versatility. So I'm excited, like you just said, Sean, to see that 3-guard lineup because it's going to cause teams problems because you have 3 different guys that can make plays, unlike what Killian had in the past, which was really it was limited playmakers. Now you have really three guys in the same lineup potentially that would all be able to distribute and make plays with the basketball. So I'm excited to see it.
Yeah, for sure. And with that, what do you think of Killian Hayes and what he had to say at Media Day? Let us know in the comments section down below. Did it change what you think of his trajectory this season? And what do you think ultimately will happen with Killian Hayes? We would love to know what your thoughts are in the comment section down below. Join the conversation, but also join the community here at From Half Court,
Do
because
it.
this is the best content as far as NBA and Pistons that you're going to get. So you're going to want to like this video, subscribe to the channel. You're going to want to follow my boy Jeff Iafrady on Twitter at Jeff Iafrady, and catch him Monday through Friday on the Morning Woodward Show. And hey, who knows? If you're tuning in, you just might catch me there as well, because I'm going to come in and annoy Adam about all things basketball. And hey, if you're feeling charitable, you can go follow me as well at Sean Half Court right down here as well. I will be tweeting all sorts of stuff about basketball and all of my articles and content that we're going to be having coming out. But with that, folks, we want to thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for watching this video. We will catch you guys next time from Half Court. Sure to subscribe.